Here at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. And my guest today is Scott Miller, and he's the author of Summit Mindset. He is a serial entrepreneur, although I'm not sure I love that term. I don't know if he does, but he's started, run, been CEO, and sold several businesses. And he has a new startup that he's doing right now. We might talk about that a little bit. But I want to bring Scott on and start with this, which is he talks about being a people first business leader. And I'm really curious about what he means by that. So let's bring Scott on and he can answer that question. Hey, Scott, how are you today?
Gosh, it's a pleasure to be here today. What an honor to spend some time with you and have a conversation about business and life. But yeah, people first leader is super important. I think, I just recently started Yesly Water. It's an enhanced still water beverage with vitamin B12, B6, vitamin C, and 0 calories. We rolled out in New York and on the West Coast in California. And we built our pillars, one of the first things we did. And what is people first? It's about a we culture. It means everybody has a voice, everybody matters, and everybody has the opportunity to make a difference each day. And I think in organizations, people really make the difference. And I think when people feel empowered to make that difference, the team really galvanizes together as a we culture, as one kind of movement on whatever their North Star may be, whatever the business is in pursuit of, they do it collectively.
So, how do you set up so there's actually an opportunity for everybody to participate? Because I hear people say that a lot, and then when it comes to actually doing it, it becomes a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, great point. I think that culture should never be a plaque on the wall. You have to live and breathe it every day. And I think the first thing I've always done in organizations is I've gone into the organization and said, who are we? What is our North Star? At Essentia, we created a North Star to be the number one premium water in North America. We've sold that business to Nestle and they have a great opportunity to achieve that goal. We set our pillars: people first, our brand, kind of the grit of the underdog mentality, and that North Star to be number one. So I think when you set your culture up and then you start talking about it every day and living it, people buy into it and they believe it. When it's just a plaque on a wall, everybody calls BS on it. So creating a we culture is really allowing someone like Josh to have a valuable voice to give insight, to create town hall meetings to talk about the business. I also like to talk about what do we stink at? What could we do better? I think business and life's an inside out job, right? You got to first look inward to see where you can make adjustments, recalibrate, and keep playing ball. When things go out of bounds, it's okay. We talk about it. We don't finger point. We problem solve together. That's what a we culture is. And we're after one common goal. And along the way, we're empowering each other to be better.
So, what is the biggest challenge you face when you set up a we culture?
It's really getting people to collectively participate in setting up that culture. What are our pillars? How do we create our pillars? People first. What are our business goals? What is our community goal? And what is our North Star? You don't do it from a top down management standpoint. You'll have everybody to whiteboard things on the wall, to participate in that, and then vote on those pillars, those four pillars. What should we be? And we voted that we should be a we culture, that we all participate, that everybody has a valuable voice at the end of the day. And our North Star on Yesly is to be the number one enhanced still water beverage in North America. And that's a big goal, but that's what we wake up and collectively go after every day. And, we chop tree, carry water, but we do it together. And I think when folks feel that authenticity in doing that, they know that they're contributing to something and make a difference every day. And as you know, Josh, we all work a lot of hours. And, at the end of the week, you want to go home and feel like you added value, you had a voice, you made a difference. Hey, that doesn't mean everything goes your way every day. That doesn't mean business like life isn't tough, but you made progress together. And that is the essence of a we culture, that together we make progress. I always say it's really never about one of us, it's about all of us making a difference. And I talk about that in my book, The Summit Mindset.
So, when I had my food service company, we would one of our pillars was you are the expert at your job, so act like it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of a wise guy statement, but the truth is, when you treat your employees or your team members as experts at what they do, you're sort of forcing yourself into asking them questions instead of telling them what they should be doing.
I
If
fully agree.
so if you're an expert, then we as managers need to listen to what you say, which means we need to ask questions.
Yeah,
So,
I fully agree Josh. I don't think anyone should know your business better than you do. So, understanding that and knowing that you have a voice to ask questions, to add value, to contribute is what makes businesses great and what makes great teams contributing.
So when you build a team, um, how do you go about doing that?
I think you first have to assess who are you? What do you want to create as a culture? And then as you're interviewing folks, hey, does Josh fit into our culture? Is he an I guy or is he part of a we culture? Is he going to be a contributor? Is he going to add value? Is he going to empower other people to add value? You know, we're no longer in this 1950 management where you pound on the desk and you try to get people to do things. You want people to feel inspired to make a difference in their job. And when you build that team, you set up your culture, you set up your pillars, and you did say when you're interviewing folks, does Josh or Scott fit into our kind of culture? What kind of people do we want to contribute here?
Yeah, I find that's especially true with Gen Z and millennials. Those folks, they have it. They want to be involved and they want to participate in making decisions in the company. And as we boomers don't figure that out, we do so at our peril, at least in my opinion.
You are 200% correct. I think that as we boomers look at that, we have to look at every generation, the younger, the middle, and the older. And I think we all add value and we all can get nuggets of learnings if we believe open mindedly that we can learn from each other. I believe all leaders are learners, and I think every individual is a leader of themselves first. And if you have an open mind, you're always looking for a nugget to get better. And if we do that as a team, we really do inspire each other to continue to move forward.
One of my favorite trick questions is, how do you motivate others?
Yeah,
And
I don't I don't think it's about motivation. I think it's about a common set of principles and goals and that North Star what we're going after. And then every day the team works up and does the reps together and they talk about what's working and what's not working. And that's what I started to talk about earlier, Josh. It's that inside out job. I like to talk about what we stink at in business. We all know what we do well, but does our supply chain need to get better? Does our finance team need to get better? Do we need to do a better job at marketing? When we talk about what we stink at, we can make little corrections, we become better competitors every day. So I think business, like life, is about habits and behaviors, right? And each business has good habits and bad habits. And you want to narrow that scope of bad habits and make your good habits greater, just like we do as individuals. And I believe, I always say, practice like you play, create really good habits in the business, talk about them when they're not working. And a we culture, we all trying to listen to each other and we try to find what's best to move the business forward. And we're all focused on advancing the ball. Great things happen.
yeah, my experience, it's pretty hard to be world class at everything.
Agreed.
So what I would like to see, or what we used to encourage, I still encourage our team members to do this, which is take what we do well, magnify it, take what we do poorly, identify it, and manage it.
You're spot
Uh,
on.
because the truth is, and this is true for personal behavior also. I'm really good at two or three things. I'm really bad at about 97 things, and I'm mediocre at about 950 things.
Yeah. And I always say in business, I talk to young entrepreneurs and young CEOs all the time. The best business in the world can't do two or three things really, really well. And I think what happens to entrepreneurs, people running their own business, you're drinking out of a fire hose. You have so much coming at you. And you say at the end of the day, I'm working really hard. And I always say, what are you working on that advances the ball? There's only two or three things that can do that. It's really about simplicity and execution. And if we focus on that, we can cut through the clutter and execute.
I love that. The truth is, and this is a challenge in the advice business more than the blue collar world where you're sort of living, which is really, really smart people often take simple things and make it complicated.
Absolutely.
And our job as leaders is to take the complicated and make it simple.
Agreed.
Be-
Yeah, I
Because,
always, Warren Buffett talks about it all the time, Josh, simplicity and execution. I think it's so true.
a lot of times, and this is especially true with my MBA friends, is they come in with these very, very complicated mathematical formulas. And the first thing I say to MBAs when I'm working with them, I said, well, let's get rid of the math and let's go back to arithmetic because everything we need to do in this business has four
Yeah,
things. You either add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And if you can do
agreed.
those four things, you can run a business.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's that simplicity, right? And it's when you can cut through it as a team, it allows you to create what I call smart action. Getting to smart action, really making a difference and advancing the ball. Because you think about it, no matter what business we speak about, if we can have smart action, we can out execute our competition.
Yes, that's absolutely true. But you have to know what you're trying to accomplish.
Agreed.
So that's where your pillars are. Um, so when you say North Star, what do you mean by North Star?
Yeah, I think that every business should have a North Star. And I've gone in to operate a lot of businesses turnaround work, and a lot of them have a lot of great people inside it and great brands, but they're fragmented. And you start talking to the folks and you say, "Who are you guys?" And you get 10 different answers. What are you focused on? And you get, 10 different answers. So a North Star is, what is a business looking to achieve? Is it a number one position? Is it giving back to their community? Is it best in class brand? What's their North Star? And then how you rally against that. I think individuals and humans should have North Stars too. And quite frankly, when you get to our point in life, you talk to a lot of friends and colleagues and people along the journey, and you see people really frustrated and you see them kind of broken down and they feel beaten by life. And you ask them who they are and they're kind of lost, right? But my North Star is always to be in pursuit to be the best human I can be. And that, quite frankly, doesn't mean perfect, just means progress. And am I doing things that really set my soul on fire? Are doing things that I feel make a difference? Josh, this conversation with you is great. This sets my soul on fire doing this. So I think individuals need North Stars, identifying who they are, and so do organizations. When you do that, you can galvanize folks under a common cause. And really, business is about being better competitors and better teammates every day.
So I have an interesting question for you, or at least I think it's interesting. When you set company values, do you do that from the C-suite, or do you do that as a participatory activity?
Yeah, the C-suite company values is a kiss of death. That becomes that plaque on the wall that nobody listens to, nobody believes. It is about participating. It's about putting out whiteboard information, starting whiteboard as a senior group, then sending it out to the organization to evaluate what they think, and then literally voting on it. What should our pillars be? People first, we culture. What is our community? Are we an engaged consumer community? Do we want to serve at Yesly every consumer with a mouth? Or do we want one set of consumers? No, we want to serve every consumer's of mouth. How do we all vote on that? When we all vote on it, we have buy-in. We believe in it. It becomes part of our DNA. And I think that's super important. And then I believe your North Star and your pillars should be something you always speak about. We have a monthly town hall meeting, just starting now, a year-old company, talking about our pillars, talking about our North Star, how we communicate, what we stink at. So when the organization believes we all can participate in that and we're authentically going after it, everybody believes more. And the organization has to also know we're not perfect. We make mistakes. Some days we're great, other days we stink. And that's okay. As long as we have corrective action, we're moving forward to that word, that smart action, or we focus on things that advance our business and advance our people. Do people feel like they come to work and they make a difference? Do they want to contribute? Are they building their careers? To me, Josh, the numbers, it's the science. That's the easy part. The people, the culture, that stuff you have to keep cultivating. It has to keep living and growing. And we all own that. I always say it's never about one of us, it's actually about all of us owning that.
So where do clarifying statements fit in with your pillars?
Well, I'll talk to you about even my personal pillars. Like if you read the Summit Mindset, which was released this month on September 12th, I talk about my personal pillars, my faith, my family, others, and business. That's how I kind of live my life, and I kind of toggle in those areas. Some days I'm doing really well on the business side, and maybe not as well on the other side. But I look at my pillars every week and I ask myself how I'm doing. It's the same thing in a business. The pillars aren't always evenly aligned, but we're looking at them as guardrails of how our business is run. And I look at them as guardrails as how I personally live my life. And I think that that lets me know when adversity hits that I rely on those pillars to continue to get me through. And in business, when adversity hits, we rely on those pillars as well. And I think that it's really important for individuals to think of their pillars and their North Star And I think businesses, when they have a North Star and they have the pillars that they live, it creates a happier workforce. It creates a more productive workforce. And it creates a workforce that people feel they can contribute to without judgment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I want to add something else. I am a really big believer in clarifying statements around any one word, pillar, or value, whatever you want to call it. Because when you say faith, I don't really know what you mean by faith. I know what I mean by faith. And the problem when you don't put a clarifying statement is I'm going to use my definition and not your definition. And it's your value. So in my experience, I need to know what your definition of faith is so I can help you get there.
Yeah, let's talk about that a minute. I write about that in the Summit Mindset. Faith is probably one of my favorite chapters. And I talk about faith in a way, in a non judgmental way. I believe that faith is the opportunity to believe something greater than ourselves. I think that, when we all wake up in the morning, go out to the cool of the morning dew, we know there's something greater than us, right? When you're out there, who hasn't been out looking at the stars at night and feeling how small we may feel, and there's something greater there? So, in the Summit Mindset, I ask people to explore their faith and whatever that means to them. And it's kind of like a muscle, right? If you don't ride the bike for 25 miles a week, 3 times a week, and you try to get back on the bike after 6 months, you don't ride very well. It's the same thing with faith. If you're not looking towards it in some manner, you don't do it really well. You're uncomfortable with it. So, in the Summit Mindset, I just ask people to explore the word faith and know that there's something greater than us in a very non judgmental way. In that chapter, I wanted an atheist to be able to read about faith, or someone of any religion to read about faith, and just kind of have the time to pause, to think, to reflect on what that means to them. And I think it's a journey that is beneficial to all of us. And I did that in a very non judgmental way. But I believe in my personal life, faith has helped me substantially through the valleys and the ups and downs, because as you know, Josh, we all go through valleys and ups and downs. It's part of living. And when we can lean on something greater than ourselves, I think we're better for it.
That makes a ton of sense. So, how do you develop an approach to facing obstacles?
I think you have to believe, in the Summit Mindset, the book is really written. I'm a runner. I love to run the backcountry, the mountains. You're a guy that lives in the mountain area, so you understand the weather's always changing, the climate's always changing. And I believe that's life. And I think that we have to believe that adversity is always coming. We never escape it. No one does. And I think sometimes the human experience is we think things should be a straight line. And when they're not, we kind of say, woe is me. It's kind of the same thing in business. We think everything's going to work out. Quite frankly, they never really work out. You're always driving solutions and you're always problem solving. That's what business is. And that's what life is. There's always another turn of that Rubik's Cube, there's always something else happening. So that's why I'm a big believer in pillars. And I'm a big believer in that North Star. And then I use the word practice like you play. Every day, build habits, build good fundamentals. So when the adversity comes, you're ready for it, right? When you're on that 25, 30-mile bike ride and it starts to rain, you're okay because you've been there before, because you've created a habit, right? When you got that headwind against you on the bike ride, you're okay. Your head's down and you're digging deeper because you created a habit. It's the same thing in business and life. And the business that struggle are those that aren't okay with that because they haven't created a habit. And for those individuals that struggle, they have not created those habits. So I'm a big believer in pillars and repetition and doing the reps and creating habits.
Yeah, when we brought a new manager on, I would always have them send me their weekly plan on Monday, first thing in the morning, and they had to do that for 6 months.
Yeah,
After 6 months, I could stop because now they had a habit formed where they couldn't
exactly.
work without having that plan.
Exactly. It's so important. I think that, every business I've gone into run, great people, good businesses, but usually a mess because they don't have habits. Usually a mess because they're not measuring something every week and they don't know where they're going. So they're adrift. And when you're adrift with a business, you can't navigate. When you're adrift individually, you can't navigate. And that's really what the Summit Mindset, the book, is about. It's really about, I wanted a CEO to be able to read that book in the boardroom, but a mom to be able to read that book and get something out of it. We talk about courage. We talk about adversity. We talk about a North Star, and we talk about the word happiness, right? Like, What is happiness? Well, to me, Josh, happiness isn't the big house, the money, the title. Happiness starts inside. It's an inside out job, right? And it's what makes you happy. Me getting out for a morning run before the sun comes up, before I start my day, makes me happy. This conversation makes me happy. I think that individuals need to know what is happiness to them. And it's different to all of us. And it's not a final destination, right? We always have to work on it. It's the same thing in business. Is your culture happy? Is your culture progressive? Do they feel it's alive or do they feel it's a plaque on the wall? It's really, really important that folks feel it's alive and growing. And that doesn't mean it's perfect. That doesn't mean it's without problems, but it's cultivated, it's talked about, and it's getting better. It's the same thing with our lives, right? Everyone in our lives can talk about what's gone wrong. The real challenge is how we've worked through that. I know in my life, Josh, probably like yours, some of my greatest victories have come through struggle. What I've learned through that adversity, that struggle. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, we don't learn from doing things correctly. We learn from making mistakes.
Agreed.
And one of my values is that celebrate mistakes
Yeah. Yeah. Look
because
inward.
that's you're going to learn it. You're going to learn
Yeah.
from that. It's not like you want to go out and make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. That's just a given. But when we make it, the question is not what did we do wrong, but what did we learn?
Yeah. What was our
Because
corrective action? Right. And that's why I say business and life is an inside out job. And if you
yeah,
have the courage to look inward and say, hey, what did I stink at? What's my corrective action? That's when we always evolve. We never stop growing.
yeah,
We want that in business and we want that as individuals. So I wrote the Summit Mindset with James C. Moore, which is a New York Times bestselling author. This was a different book than he'd ever written before. And we wrote it to really serve people and really maybe help some people in their lives. It's a prescriptive book. At the end of every chapter, it has something to reflect on and think about. And I just think it's important. And I'm a real big believer in people, in a we culture. And I felt it was time in my life to give something back and to make a small difference, kind of make a dent in the universe.
cool. So, Scott, unfortunately, we are out of time. And I'm going to assume people would like to get your book and find out more about you. So, how could they go about doing that?
Sure, they can find me on our website, thesummitbook.com. They can also find us on Instagram, thesummitbook.com as well. Certainly we're available on Amazon. We're proud to say that last week we became the number one bestseller on Amazon in vocation and guidance. So I think it's worth picking up for folks. And we appreciate your support. And Josh, it's been a real honor to spend time with you today. The last thing I'd say to folks is I'd encourage everyone to have courage in their lives and take a chance at things because sometimes we play too small. And I think it's important to be in pursuit of life.
Great. And, Scott, thanks so much. And I've got two things I'd like you to do. The first, I've asked, I don't know, 400 some odd times. I forgot how many episodes we have now. But go wherever please go to wherever you're listening to this podcast and give us an honest rating and review. If you love us, tell us you love us. If you don't, you can say that, and I'll just cry a little bit, but I'll get over it someday. And the second thing is, this is true for about 97, maybe 98% of the business owners in the United States, is that you may think your business is going to get you to retirement. I have some bad news for you. It's not. But first, you need to know where you are and if you're on the road to financial independence, becoming financially free from your company. That's an important thing. It's not the only thing, but at the end of the day, you will want to leave your business someday, most likely, and you want to leave it so you can do what you want when you want. We have a program called the Financial Freedom Accelerator. It first helps you figure out where you are on the road and then what kind of strategies that you can pursue to reach financial independence. You don't have to become the biggest company in the world. You can do it with 3 employees, you can do it with 300 employees, but you just need to have a strategy to get there. Starts with knowing where you are, developing the strategies, and then implementing. If you want to learn more about the Financial Freedom Accelerator, it's really easy. Go to www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom. That's www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom. Read about it. And if you like about what you read, sign up to have a 20-minute conversation with me to find out if the program will be right for you. So this is Josh Patrick. We're with Scott Miller. You're at Cracking the Cashflow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.